administration for all their support this year through this whole process. They've been amazing. They've been great to work with. They've been supportive in every single way. And myself and our staff and our football team really appreciate it. I also want to thank Dan Guerrero. Same thing about Dan. You know, we're going into our third year together here, and he's just been a tremendous person to work for and partner with, and he's done amazing things for this university. He's doing amazing things for this football program, and once again, we really appreciate it. You know, you can't recruit without your players, you can't recruit without your students, and you can't recruit without your fans. And our students and our fans, and especially our players, have been so great through this process. You know, they drop what they're doing on Friday nights and Saturday nights to host official visits. You know, they come down and spend time with these guys in the office. You know, they take time away from their personal time to get involved in the recruiting process, and we appreciate it. When we take recruits around campus and students yell their name or come up and tell them how great UCLA is, that makes a tremendous impact on these kids and their families. And then when we're in Westwood, or we're at any of the restaurants we might go to, or out near the Rose Bowl, and the fans come up and tell them about how great it is to live in this area and how great Los Angeles is, or how great Westwood is, it really makes an impression on them. So I want to thank all those people that helped. And then lastly, our football staff, and that includes our coaches and our interns and our GAs and our support staff. It's hard to fathom how much work goes in to recruiting. I know it was hard for me to fathom. These guys are tireless workers. They're committed. You know, you're trying to juggle coaching football. You're trying to juggle being a dad, being a husband, and recruit a top class for one of the great football programs in America. And it's not always easy, but these guys make a tremendous commitment. And I say guys, but Jolie Oliver's up there as well, and she does the same thing. You know, it's a 12-month-a-year proposition, and these guys set aside vacations. They set aside time at their kids' baseball games or basketball games to recruit, and it's part of the life that we accept, part of the life we love, but it does involve tremendous sacrifice. And so I just want to recognize those guys. About this year's class, you know, it's an outstanding class for UCLA. It fills a lot of needs for us. You know, we have egos like everybody else, so we do look at the rankings. You know, we look at rivals, we look at Scout, all right? And what I'm proud of is that it's a small class, and I'll get to that in a minute, but when you go to Scout or you go to Rivals, you see that both of those websites, which I have a lot of respect for, have us in the top 10 in average star rating. And so it's not always how many you get, but it's the quality that you get, especially in a year like this. And so we're really excited about that. We did fill some very specific needs or areas of concern on this football team. First and foremost, you know, height and speed at wide receiver. You know, that's something that we felt like we need to get better at. And so when you go out and you're able to sign an Alex Van Dyke, or you're able to go and get a Jordan Lasley from Sarah, who we think we had in camp and we think is a tremendous talent with a load of potential. You're able to go sign an Austin Roberts out of Indianapolis, Indiana, and his pedigree, his dad being a coach in the NFL, again, a 6'2", 220-pounder. You know, Van Dyke, a 6'4" guy who can really run. A guy like Jordan Lasley, who we measured at just under 6'1", 190 pounds, who, you know, who can really get up the field and take the top off of the defense, and you've helped yourself at that position. You know, we lost a couple of really good linebackers in Anthony Barr and Jordan Zumwalt, and that's very much an understatement. But I think we put together an amazing class of linebackers. You know, Kenny Young coming in from Curtis High School in Kenner, Louisiana, you know, one of the top linebackers in the country. Zach Whitley, you know, coming in from Houston, who was originally committed to an SEC team and then decided to come to UCLA. Those are two of the top guys nationally. You know, Dwight Williams here from Sarah High School, another local product. And then we think a diamond in the rough, Cameron Griffin, okay? And those 4 guys are really going to help us. They'll help us immediately. We think playing in the game on defense as well as on special teams. They're all fast, big, explosive, dynamic athletes. I think that we did a really nice job at adding size and athleticism and flexibility to our defensive line. And once again, we stayed in California to do that. You know, you talk about a guy like Ainu Tao from Lompoc, and I say that right? Lompoc. He says Lompoc. A dynamic nose guard, had 2 sacks in the Army All-American game. He has the wild hair flowing. He's just got a passion for the game. That's the kind of guy you want to add to your program. You know, you go get a guy like Jacob Tuiotu Mariner from St. John Bosco. You know, a guy who initially had dreams to play volleyball here at UCLA and now finds himself on a football scholarship. The guy's got a tremendous amount of potential. We're able to go up north and get Matt Dickerson, who was initially committed to a team in the Midwest, and Angus stayed on him hard, and this guy is going to be a tremendous player here. So I'm really excited about what we were able to do with the defensive line. Last year, offensive line was an area of tremendous need for us, and I believe we signed 7 or 8, was it 7? 7 guys last year. So this year we needed to go a little bit lighter there, but one thing we needed to do was add a veteran presence. And so Malcolm Bunch, you know, who started at Miami, who was projected to be a 3rd or 4th round draft pick in this year's draft, decided he wanted to get another year of football in, and he decided to transfer to UCLA. So we're going to get that veteran presence in a very, very young room, the offensive line room. He's got tremendous flexibility. He can play all 3 positions. He's an enormous man, and he's very, very mature. It's quite a change for Coach Clem recruiting a 17-year-old versus recruiting a 22-year-old. You know, it just takes a different skill set, and Coach Clem did an amazing job. And then we got a couple guys with some flexibility. Colton Miller from up north, you know, 6'8", an enormous man, can bend for his size. We think he's going to be a really good tackle for us here someday. And then Najee Turan out of Houston, a guy that can play center and guard. He's a violent player, and he loves to get after it. He loves to get down and dirty. He has great position flexibility, and so, you know, we helped ourselves at that position as well. And then I think, you know, we've got a pretty darn good secondary. I think, you know, going into this past season, you know, all of us are UCLA fans were concerned about our secondary. You know, it was young, it was inexperienced. We lost all 4 starters from 2012, but those guys that played well, and they're coming back. But we get to add Jaleel Wadu from St. John Bosco. You know, in my opinion, one of the most dynamic players in this city. A guy that, you know, he can play safety, he can play nickel, he can go out and play corner. We're going to use him in the slot. You know, we're going to get the ball in his hands on offense. We're going to put him back as returner. You know, a guy that has that type of dynamic playmaking ability, you try to get him on the field. You know, Darius Pickett, one of the top cover corners in the country from up north, he's coming in. You know, Denzel Fisher, who my passion is kind of coaching corners. When I watch Denzel Fisher, I get excited. This guy's 6'1½", and he was only about $170 right now, but he can run. He's going to come in at about 185 pounds. He's got length, and he's got that athletic arrogance that you love to see in a football player at that position. Ron Robinson, who's already on campus. You know, Ronnie's a big, good-looking safety who's athletic. Maybe someday he grows into a linebacker, but right now he's a safety for us. I think he can have an immediate impact for us on special teams. And then we cheat a little bit because, you know, for us, having Mossy Johnson gray shirt last year, you know, in our minds, we kind of include him in this class, you know, because he hasn't done anything for us on the football field. So just getting Mossy is a big get. And then we're going to get Marcus Rios back, and we're going to get Johnny Johnson back. So all of a sudden, you're looking at what was a pretty darn productive secondary last year, getting a real infusion of talent. We go back to the defensive line for a second. We're also getting this guy back named Owa, so that's going to help us a little bit there as well. And then, you know, we feel good about our quarterback position. You know, shoot, heck, the biggest get of this whole off season was Brett Hundley, and one of the reasons that I was late getting down here is I'm up there on the phone with him trying to get him to sign his dang NLI again so that he can stay for this year and his next year. But, you know, getting him or having him come back is big for us. It gives us another year to to get Asante Woolard some experience, and Mike Faithful and Jerry Neuheisel and those guys, but we were also able to add Aaron Sharp, who fits the profile that we're looking for in a quarterback. And that's a big man who is a passer first, but can run. And you think about Brett Hundley. He's a big man, he's physical, but first and foremost, he's a passer, but he can get things done with his legs. You look at Asante Woolard. He's a big man, he's physical, he's a passer first, but he can get things done with his legs. It's the same thing with Aaron Sharp. This guy, when he was here, we weighed him, or we measured him at 6'2" and a half, 195 pounds. You know, he just turned 18, so he's going to get bigger, he's going to get stronger, and this guy can run. He's a 21-6 something 200-meter guy. Now, he's not going to run 200 meters on our football field, but he does have speed. At the running back position, we added Coach Kennedy Polamalu, okay? Big get for us. And then we're still waiting on a couple other things to transpire offensively that hopefully we'll be able to report on later tonight. So smaller class overall than the past 2 years. Not as many numbers, you know, including Mossy and Bunch. The number for us is 19, okay? Like I said, right now we got a couple irons in the fire, but you know, going to next season, we only have 6 scholarship seniors on our roster right now, including Bunch on offense. It's Bunch and Jordan James, and then 4 on defense. Okay, so we're light on numbers going into the 2015 class. So we're a very young team, a very talented team with a lot of really great potential. But we have to be careful about how we spend our currency, about how we use our scholarships, and we were very, very careful with that this year. They're precious, you know, they're precious. A lot of times I liken them to, for people that are my age, you know, the golden ticket in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. You know, everyone was looking for that golden ticket, that chance to go into Willy Wonka's, you know, Chocolate Factory. It's kind of like that here at UCLA. This is a special environment. It takes a different kind of person to succeed here, whether it's athletically, whether it's academically, or whether it's from a character standpoint. And so we have to set the bar high, and we're going to continue to set the bar high. We want to be the best in everything that we do, and we're not going to compromise, and we're not going to settle. So we went after some big fish. We went after some, you know. And when you turned on the TV today, a lot of those big announcements, boy, they were talking about UCLA, you know, and we didn't get them all, okay? But that's okay. All right, that's okay. We're going to get ourselves on the map. We're going to keep fighting for those guys. Like always, we're going to go back and reevaluate our strategy, find out what we did well, find out what we can improve on. But I really believe this, that if you're going to beat the best teams in the country, if you're going to be one of the best teams in the country, which is our goal, then you better be ready to compete with them on every single level, and that includes recruiting. So we're never going to shy away. Okay, we're never going to give in. All right, we're never gonna go, hey, you know what? This is an SEC guy. We don't have a shot. If we got a shot, if there's a crack in the door, we're going to try to bust it down. And we were the bridesmaid. Heck, we might even been the ring girl on a couple of players today. But we were in the wedding. We were in the church. Okay, and that's our goal. And so I don't want UCLA fans to be disappointed that we didn't get all those guys. I want UCLA fans to be excited about the guys we did get. This is an excellent team. This team is growing up fast before your eyes. It's a young team, 6 seniors next year. Man, let's concentrate and let's focus on the guys that we did get. Because like I said at the start, this is a top 10 class in the United States of America here at UCLA. So in the 3 years we've been here, all right, we've done pretty darn good. Once again, though, pretty darn good's not going to be enough, not going to be good enough for us here. So that was like a State of the Union, and you guys probably have a lot of questions.
What are you going to do about Obamacare?
But I haven't gotten a chance to talk to you guys for a long time since the bowl game, and I thought this was just a really good opportunity to kind of talk to you and really to talk to our fans. So I appreciate you being here.
You talk a little bit about Zach Whitley. He's already been in school. What you see from him physically, like you might have a better idea how he might project rather than someone who hasn't been in school.
No, you're absolutely right. You know, he's already in our winter program with Coach Alosi. I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but I want to put a little pressure on him. he's been compared favorably to a guy named Miles Jack by Coach Alosi. You know, Miles came in here last year when he jumped into the summer program. You know, Coach Alosi said, hey, this guy's got, you know, he's got bend, he's got explosiveness, he's got the right attitude, he's got a great work ethic. You know, when I talked to Coach Alosi about Zach, he says the same types of things. You know, so we think this is a guy that's going to have an immediate impact on our football team.
With Mossy Johnson, he was obviously recovering from that offseason knee surgery. What's his status now?
He's doing really well. You know, he's not at 100%, but he's closing in on it. You know, it really helps that he's on campus now, that he's able to be under the care of our doctors and our athletic trainers, working in our world-class training room. Anthony Venuti does an amazing job with those guys, and he should be full speed by spring. You know, and that's going to be a real advantage for us.
And you see him slotted more as defensive back than a receiver initially?
Right now. You know how we are, though. We're gonna let the guy take us. We're going to take him where his body takes him. You know, we're going to put him on offense if that looks like it's the best place for him to be and for him to help this football team. If it's corner, it's corner. You know, I think you asked an interesting question. I mentioned all the really good corners I think we have on this football team. If Mossy looks like a guy that can play in that slot and make things happen, then we'll get him over there. We might play him on both sides. You know how we do that.
What was it about this recruiting cycle that made you guys especially go after those big guys, the guys who maybe decided today?
Well, you know, the first year, you can't even consider that really a recruiting cycle. You know, I came in here December 9th or 13th or something like that. We hit a dead period, and then we just kind of had a race. You know, we were bringing masses in here. We were renting buses to take them out to the Rose Bowl. It wasn't personal. Last year was a little bit better, but we still didn't have a great background with a lot of these recruits. This year, you know, with a lot of these young men, we've known them now for well over a year, some going on 2 years, some even longer. And so the relationships indicated to us that there was a real chance, you know, that they were interested in UCLA. You know, I think all those guys that we went after had a genuine interest in UCLA. I had multiple conversations today with those guys that didn't choose us, and you know, the pull that they felt to be out here was amazing. It wasn't just so that they could have a cool UCLA hat sitting on the podium. You know, it was genuine. And you know, going forward, we just have to make sure that we do a great job with our resources. You know, and that's our time in deciding who we recruit on a national scale.
So a little more suspenseful war room than the last few times? Yeah,
it was interesting. You know. Woke up this morning and literally there were 5 or 6 guys that we had no idea on. You know, I can't remember last year. I think it was Monday night about 10 o'clock that I got the last call, telling me what was gonna, what was gonna happen with one of our recruits. So, yeah, I can't say it was a lot of fun. That's why I look like this. Okay, it hasn't been fun, but it's been exciting.
Going after guys that are across the country, how much does that take energy away from some of the guys that are maybe a little bit more local?
We got a lot of energy on this staff. You know, you talk about Coach Martin and Coach Yarber and Coach Clem and Coach Brick and Taylor and Noel, and now we got Kennedy in the mix. You know, Uncle Angus is, we go after it, okay? I mean, we go after it 24/7, 365 days a year. Like I said earlier, there's tremendous sacrifices made. But to your question, we have to make sure, like you do after every game, after every season, you know, after every recruiting cycle, you go back and you evaluate. Okay, what did we do well? What can we improve on? And we've already started that process. You know, we create our after-action report, and then we act on it. We gather together as a staff, and we exchange ideas, and we're very critical of ourselves. I'm especially critical of myself because ultimately the decisions are mine. But I feel great about this class. I don't feel great that we missed on some of those guys, but once again, the kids that are coming in here, man, UCLA fans are going to love watching them play out at the Rose Bowl.
With Najee, is he still on track to early enroll?
It appears that way. Yeah, it appears that he's on track, and if we can get him here in the spring, that'd be really good for his development and for our depth up front.
Anybody else you think?
Well, Adarius Pickett, we know that. Malcolm will obviously be here. I think that's probably about it.
What do you think of Jaleel's hand sign? And are you on board with it?
His
fours up.
I was going to do it, but I can't do it. You know what? It's fun. It's fun for these young men. If it gets them fired up, if it catches on, then I'm all for it. So I'll tell you what I'm excited about, that Jaleel's throwing those up for UCLA and not somebody else, because that guy's an explosive, dynamic player.
Do you now go to concentrate on filling the position on the staff right now? Is that kind of what you pivot into?
I'm going to try to sleep tonight first, and then and then we've got some ideas on some things that we want to do, and that's got to be the next order of business is filling the position on the staff. We've already as no different than any other staff, we're already working on 2015. I mean, that thing hadn't even closed; it still hadn't closed out, and we're already, just like everybody else, on to 15 and 16. So.
Do you have any timeline on when you might fill those coaching vacancies?
No, as soon as it feels right, as soon as the right person presents themselves, as soon as the match seems to fit, then we'll do it. I don't want to move too hastily, but I don't want to, because I don't want to make the wrong decision, but I don't want to prolong it either. So, it's certainly it's an emphasis for me right now.
Just to clarify, you talking about defensive coordinator specifically?
Yeah, well, we need to add a position to our staff right now. So we'll see how it takes form, how it takes shape. I have some ideas on some things that I want to do, but we'll see how it takes shape. It's just our focus has been only on recruiting right now, and then trying to be around our student athletes as much as we can. But quite frankly, it's been about this 2014 class more than anything else.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.